Hey everybody, can you believe it? Look what's in the yard. So for anybody new to my channel, you might be thinking, oh, what's this, a new project you got a hold of? Well, no, actually, this is an old project. And for those of you who have been following my channel for a while, you may have even forgotten about this. Occasionally over the years, some of you will see one of the old videos on this and ask when I'm going to get back to it or if I ever finished it. And well, I don't know, just never really got back to it, and every year I'd say this is going to be the year I'm going to work on it. Never did anything. So today what I did was I hauled this up here in the yard. One of the reasons I want to get back to this thing is because I'm sick of just seeing it sit there and do nothing and just get older and whatever. Also, by the time this video airs, today is March 26th or so. Anyways, 2020. But by the time this video airs, you guys will probably have seen a video where I give a sneak peek at a Ford tractor that I was interested in purchasing. Well, I got the call today. It looks like that's going to happen. So we've got something to look forward to on the channel if you're into tractors. In the meantime, I'd like to get this tractor running so I can start deciding what to sell off and what to keep. So this is for those of you who don't know, this is an International Harvester 350 utility tractor that I had purchased, and had a broken steering box when I got it. I did a ton of work to the steering box, as much as I could do, and it's still not reassembled. The valves were sticking, so I had the head rebuilt by an automotive machine shop. They did an excellent job, and the motor was running and purring like a kitten. That was a few years ago. Then I parked it, stopped working on it, parked it, and the motor hasn't run since. One of the reasons why I didn't periodically run the motor is because of the design of this tractor, the way the hydraulic pump is set up. So this is the hydraulic pump. The hydraulic pump is driven off of the gear train that's inside behind this front cover. So there's actually a gear on the crankshaft that runs this pump and the camshaft, and I think it's also runs over to the governor. So what's going on is this is direct drive. And then what they do is they run the distributor off the back of the hydraulic pump. So you can't take the hydraulic pump off and run the engine, because then your distributor's not being rotated. So if the hydraulic system's not hooked up and you run it, you'll be running this pump dry, which is not a good idea. These are the suction and return lines. They go to the reservoir in the back of the tractor. The hydraulic reservoir is actually this upper section right here, this big casting on top of the rear end. When I first got this tractor, I was concerned that the rear end was also the reservoir for the hydraulic system, like on my Ford. But that's not the case. This is actually a separate, almost like cast iron tank. There's a vent on the top there. Anywho, the problem is with the power steering out, I've got lines disconnected that if I start this tractor up, I'm just going to pump all the fluid out of that reservoir right out that line that goes to the hydraulic cylinder for the power steering assist. Actually, that line actually goes over to like an orbitrol, a hydraulic valve, steering valve, which is out of the tractor right now. So that's my problem. I can't run this tractor without putting the hydraulic lines all together again. I actually thought about the possibility of whether or not I could just loop these lines so that literally have a little bit of fluid in there and have it run out of the pump and run back in. This tractor had a loader on it, and with the loader on it, everything was in the way. So I took the loader off to work on it, make my life easier. And the other thing that we got a problem with on this thing, let's see if there's a mouse nest in here. Nope, good. Alright, so the other problem I have to contend with, and the reason why this isn't down in the basement being reassembled right now, is because somebody did some dirty pool and welded this down to the top of the tractor. Now this right here is actually a access plate to the top of the transmission cover. So what I'm wondering is, if I undo this cover, whether or not I could take this off the tractor with the cover. It's all coming back to me now. I remember now. See this bolt right here? I was able to loosen this bolt, but I can't take this bolt all the way out because it actually hits. So the idea was that you were supposed to take all these other bolts out first, lift up on this part, and as you lift it up on this, continue to loosen this so you could take this out. But I can't do that because this is welded to that. So to make matters worse, as if things weren't bad enough, they also welded right here on the side. That weld, unfortunately, looks like it's welded to the actual casting of the tractor. This whole big part right here. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to try and grind that off in the hopes that that will be able to separate from the rest of this. I don't know how it is on the other side. Oops. A little out of frame there. There you go. That's a farmer's weld if I ever saw one. Actually, that's insulting the farmers. I'm sure there's plenty of farmers who can weld better than that. Hell, that's cast iron too, so it's not exactly the easiest thing. Here's what it looks like over on the other side. It's a lot uglier over here. It looks like they just kept stacking beads on until they could get it to stick. Brushed off all the heavy dirt so that nothing will, no big chunks of gunk will fall into the transmission casing if I get this open. I have no reason to believe that I'm going to be able to get this cover off when I take these bolts out because of the amount of weld that I see over here. It might even be brazed. I don't know, but we'll see. That's interesting. These two were shorter and did not have lock washers. Let's tap up on this back corner, see if anything happens. Whole lot of nothing. I think I'll take this access cover off. I need a shop vac. Looks like we're looking at the torque amplifier right here. Yep, because the clutch linkage is way up in the front here, so yeah, the clutch is right off of the flywheel like what you expect. So this back here is the torque amplifier, or the rear end of it maybe, I don't know. Well, I can see why you don't want to put a long bolt in this position right here, because that will interfere with this linkage right here. So none of the bolts for that cover that I just took off have anything to do with keeping this cover on. I'm beginning to think I should just reassemble this gearbox on the tractor. Now that I get the loader off, I can do it. When the loader was on here, it was like, oh, it was a nightmare. So I figured I'd take the box off, and that's when I discovered that it was welded on. But now that I got this all open, I mean, I might be just digging into a can of worms. I'm wondering why they welded this in the first place. I'm wondering whether or not some of these bolts that hold this on here, some of these bolt holes don't look like they've had bolts in them in a long time, which means I didn't take them out. So they could be stripped out of the casting. This could turn into a real nightmare quick, if it isn't already one. Yeah, I'm leaning towards just, you know, put it back together on the tractor. Hey, so I was just looking at this this line right here. This steel line, it's badly kinked right there. It's got some damage. It's actually badly kinked here, and it's got more damage here. I think that's going to be restricting the flow, so I'm probably going to want to change this line out if I get everything else straightened out. And then this line here that somebody replaced, because this line goes to the back of the tractor, couples to this old line right here. So I think this was a steel line actually also. Yeah, this must have originally been a steel line that somebody replaced that ran from here. Yeah, here's, okay, here's the thing on the, okay, all right, so here's the, right here, right? This is where the steel line was mounted and went over and then went to this. And somebody put on this new line. So what I'm wondering is, one of these is pressure and one's return. Doesn't matter which is which. Why can't I just take this, this is the other end of that rigid steel line that's all kinked up. Why can't I just take this off right here and loop this on right here? And then that pressure will just be going right back to the reservoir. I think I can do that. If I do that, then I can run this thing. Make sure the engine's okay. Well, I'm happy to say that that fluid does not look anywhere near as bad as I expected it to. Oops. That is an environmental disaster. Now, let's see. Am I fortunate enough that this is going to actually fit right on here? Right type of fitting and everything? Looks like it is. So if you don't care about things like having steering, you just do this and drive around. Alright, now that I got that line hooked up, fortunately for me that line is the right kind of fitting, which is basically just looping right around. Now I got to get my starter back on. Well, I don't remember that being like that. Casting's broken. That a kick in the head. Alright, so I got my big commercial battery out of the Oliver in here. That's got plenty of cranking amps. The bolts were in really bad shape on here, so I actually ended up having to snap them to get them off. I put 2 new bolts in, the clamps are nice and tight. So, I remember way back when, Mark was just asking me because he watched some of my old videos, but in my old videos I was wondering whether or not the battery is supposed to even go there. There's a nice tray right here for it to sit in, but I think that tray was actually supposed to be for a toolbox. And I think the battery on this tractor originally was supposed to sit maybe here? I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not going to worry about it. Alright, so the plan right now is I got the battery all hooked up, and all I want to do is I want to see whether or not it'll turn over. So I got the starter bolted in. Of course, the starter flange is broken there, so I got a washer in there. I don't even have lock washers in there, but this is just a temporary setup. I'm not going to leave it that way. So there's absolutely no threat of this starting because the ignition system's disconnected. So we're not going to have any spark, but I'm going to just make sure it's in neutral because I don't want the thing to try and roll forward if it tries to turn the starter over. If it tries to turn the motor over. So, the other thing I did yesterday before I quit, or last night, was I took my shop vac and I sucked out all the leaves and everything I could get a hold of. Still seeing just a couple. But I didn't want anything on the engine. There was all dry leaves in here and everything, which if I get this running would definitely catch fire. I'm going to keep an eye on this line here because this is the little capillary line that went up to the oil gauge, oil pressure gauge. So if I crank it too long, oil might start actually coming out of here, which would mean the oil pump's working, but I don't want oil coming out all over the place. It poured like crazy last night, rain. But I did have the tarp on it, and I mean, it is what it is. All right, 12 volts comes up to here. This is the solenoid, it acts like a relay. When it closes, the 12 volts is allowed to go from here out this big heavy wire right here into the starter and crank the starter. So you're able to use a lower current switch, the ignition switch, to pass a much higher current going to the starter. Got that, Mark? Because if you tried to pass the amount of current, see how big this cable is?
Yeah.
If you tried to pass all the current that this cable can handle through the little starter switch, it would just fry it. It would burn up. So we use, inside here, there's a plunger with big copper contacts. And there's a spring in there that makes it go back to the open position when there's no power. So what happens is, if we put 12 volts on this point right here, what'll happen is, there's a coil in there that will be energized. That becomes an electromagnet. It'll pull the plunger, which will cause the contacts, the big contacts, to hit each other and pass the power from here out to here to go start the starter. All right. So we should hear, well, it should actually try and turn over. So I've got these two wires hooked up here. They come up around to right here. So these two wires are actually these two wires. Well, why there's a color change, I don't know. That's interesting. Got a red and a black wire leaving here, coming out this other end is an orange and a black. Well, anyways, there must be a splice in here somewhere. I didn't do that, I think that was like that. So this black wire goes right to the post that has the positive battery cable. So I know there's 12 volts on this black wire right now. This orange wire probably goes to this red wire, which goes to the post that is looking for 12 volts. So when I touch these two together, I should be sending 12 volts to this post, which should close this, and this thing should crank. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's a good sign.
Well, yes and no. What that clicking noise is that's telling me that this solenoid is trying to close, but it's not cranking the starter. So the question is the starter bad? Or is the solenoid just not closing all the way? So there's actually a post right on the underside here, which is the output. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get a test light. I'm going to get a test light, and what we can do is we can see whether or not any voltage comes out of there. All right, I haven't seen my test light in quite a few years, so I gave up looking for it. And going to use multimeter. So I'm looking for 12 volts, the 12 volt system, right? So I'm not going to see any voltage higher than like 14.5 volts, and that's only when when the motor's running. Right now I should be getting, around 12. So I set my meter to 20 volts DC. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to check. I'm going to ground my probe here.
That's not ground, is it?
Should be.
No, the red wire isn't ground.
Oh, this meter wouldn't care. It would just show me a negative symbol in the front if I got these backwards. But you're absolutely right, Mark. To be correct, let's put this here so that we get a nice positive voltage reading. I put this here, and we get nothing. That can't be right. All right, that doesn't make sense. I'm gonna go right on the battery. Okay, we got a problem with this meter.
Oh, there it
Now
is.
it is. I don't know why it's this.
Nice Chinese aid.
Yeah, this is a kind of a junky meter.
What about your good yellow one?
It's down there, but I think the battery's low, so I just had this was handy, so I grabbed it. Yeah. All right, here we go. So 12.16 volts. Good. Right? That's what we want. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my meter on down here, which is where the voltage is supposed to come out and go to the starter.
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm going to touch these together and see if voltage comes out.
We'll try for a spark.
All right, see what I'm getting?
Yeah.
0. Just check my connection one more time, make sure I still get, yeah, I still get a good connection.
So it's something wrong. It's not.
So the good news is, I'd much rather have this solenoid be bad than the starter be bad.
Yeah.
So the good news is it might just be the solenoid's not closing. Now, that solenoid, you could tell just by looking at it, I replaced that not that long ago. Well, I replaced that
Yeah.
back when I was working on this years ago. So it's actually old, but it has hardly any hours on it. But what I'm wondering is, it's quite possible that it's just sticking. So sometimes
We banged on mine.
that's what I was gonna do.
Watch out those wires to make it start.
I hope it does. It starts right up and drives away.
No problem anymore.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that's gonna fall down. All right, took care of it for me.
Want to check the voltage again?
Yeah, I can. And now I'm gonna go here. Nothing, right?
Nothing.
Oh, see that?
Yeah, well, what's wrong? Was it a starter?
Yeah.
Start is bad.
The reason why there's no voltage on this is
Yeah.
because there's a dead short. I just saw smoke come out of this.
Same.
So that's a bummer.
Wait, so that means the starter's broken.
I think so.
That stinks. Starter on this is not cheap either.
No, as a matter of fact, probably it's gonna be a matter of if I have to, I might take it to a place that rebuilds starters, because I could probably get that starter rebuilt by a guy for less than what it would cost for me for one online.
Do you think BPAC could do it?
Well, that was hilarious. You missed your calling. You should have been a comedian.
Rip off our chair, say.
All right, so what I'm going to do now is I just disconnected the positive cable from the battery so that I basically don't have the danger of arcing out something, right? Shorting something out and having it arc dramatically. And what I'm going to do is we're going to take the starter out and I'll bring it down onto the workbench and I'll open it up and see if there's anything I can do. Simple man that I am. See if there's anything that even someone, simple guy like me, could do to.
At your old, frail age.
Yes, at my. Oh, that's not nice. What a mean kid. You know what? Do me a favor. Go in that tool bag right there. You know what a nut driver is?
Yep. Well,
I'm looking for probably like 3/8 or 5/16.
do you have any in here?
Yeah, they're in there.
The nut driver's like this, right? No, this is a wrench.
See if you can find a 9/16 inch wrench while you're doing that.
Like 7/16.
No, 9. 9/16 inch wrench. Nut driver looks like a screwdriver that can go over a nut.
Oh! Got 9/16.
Alright, bring that over and then keep working on finding the nut driver.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got a 5/16 inch nut driver in there. It's got a yellow handle.
I maybe see it. Is there any yellow handles in here? Where would it say it?
That's it. Question is, am I right? It's either 5/16 or 3/8.
It's a very small one.
It is 3/8. So I need a 3/8 inch one.
Do you have one in here?
Yeah.
It's that red handled one,
I
right?
mean, I don't know what I have in there. You think I have memorized the inventory of all the tools in that bag?
Sure.
Yeah.
How do you know you have the right tool when you go out for a job?
Don't you know you're never supposed to have all the right tools and all the right parts on your service truck? That way you can build a customer for more trips? Come on.
I think this makes it the right size.
Yes, it is.
Hey, you got it. Tools?
I'm going to give you this right back to put back in the bag as soon as I'm going to take this lock washer and this nut and I'm going to put it right back on here so they don't get lost.
And we should have done it with my tractor.
Yeah. I don't think anybody really cared though about your tractor.
What do you mean? My tractor's the second best tractor on this property. Soon to be the third best up. This is a diesel, right?
No. How many times are you going to ask that?
Oh.
We talked about this yesterday. It's got a carburetor on it. Diesels don't have
Yeah.
carburetors.
Oh, I thought the only the reason why you're
Diesels don't have
spark plugs.
spark plugs. Oh, or unless you ask that friend of yours.
Well, you confused me because yesterday you said you put diesel gas in your diesel in this. So that's why it's making.
Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder whether or not you even saw that on a video. I think you hallucinated.
No, I'm tripping.
Yeah, you better not be. This linkage here from the torque converter. Right?
At least it's a better design of mine.
Okay.
You want your thing downstairs, right?
What thing?
Drink.
I guess.
Well, downstairs or in the kitchen?
No, leave it right there because I'm almost done with it. I'm just going to throw it out when I finish it.
I'm going inside.